What I have witnessed indicates that the Malay Indians suffer some of the most appalling and shocking conditions that I've ever witnessed in my life. I have seen families who simply by going through their ordinary lives have been brutalized, have been stabbed, and amongst them there are people who have been murdered, and the attacks are motivated simply because they are Indians. What's worse is that having suffered this indignity, they have had no recourse to justice. These individuals reported these incidents to the police, yet the police failed to take any action against the perpetrators, either by arresting them or by charging them, or even compensating these victims. I have visited families who, since independence for the last 50 years, continue to live in abject poverty. Families who cannot afford to have their children go to school, cannot feed their children and themselves, are chained to a life of poverty for life, and they do not see any hope for the future. I have met individuals who despite being Malaysian citizens, but because of them being Indian origin, do not have birth certificates and therefore cannot acquire nationality of this country. Girls of ages of 18, 16, who haven't been to formal or informal education because they do not possess these documents, and therefore are subjected to exploitation at workplace. I have met families, couples who have married but their marriage has not been registered simply because one of the spouses is Muslim and the other is a Hindu, whose children are not registered, and if they are, it is because they have failed to mention the religion of their father, but they continue to live and adhere to the religion despite the official documents. I think it's an indictment on a country that cannot recognize the basis of simple love between couple and not afford them that citizenship. I think any citizen of a country, regardless of them being in Malaysia or in the United Kingdom or Singapore or India, wherever they are, expect the nation of that country and the state of that country to ensure that they are born with dignity and they die with dignity. I have visited cemeteries, Indian cemeteries, where the graves are unkept, the graveyards represent rubbish dumps, sewage systems are open, there are no paths leading to the graves, they are individuals who must have contributed to this country, but their contributions are forgotten because their death has not been respected. And I do not know how their loved ones would ever visit a graveyard in that state. And these do not include cemeteries which are old cemeteries, but also current used cemeteries which are so far away from the roads that I find it incredible that people would be buried in these desolated so-called acreages, which to me look as if they are waste grounds, but only legally termed as cemeteries. I saw two graves which are in appalling conditions, unnamed, two people buried together, and although they have a boundary of love, and that must be something that their loved ones would have put there, but those bodies are kept underground simply by ordinary bricks being forced on the bodies. And I have met individuals who, despite being here before independence, do not have the paperwork that would show to them that they're respected as Malaysian citizens, because they do not have their status recognized and would be termed as stateless. And I have to say, these cursory impressions indicate a strong trend, a pattern, which show an abject, possibly deliberate and willful neglect of minority Indians, both in how they are treated when they are alive and how they are treated when they are dead. And this information will be critical to us in presenting this case, which would look at whether this set of conditions that I've described were as a result of the negligence when the British handed so-called independence to a sovereign Malaysia. It's important to recognize that the evidence that we will gather takes different forms and can be presented in a variety of different modules and formats, which includes obviously documentations that have been secured by Mr. Murthy and his team, as well as us, after searching the British Foreign and Commonwealth Office. It would include eyewitness statements, and the purpose of our visit was to see whether we can have claimants in the terrains that I've mentioned. It would include expert advice and evidence, and it would include supporting circumstantial evidence, data on the conditions that I've described that are either official or international. At the moment, this information needs to be translated into evidence, and I think that that evidence would be strong. I think I should comment, and I want to comment on the exclusion of Mr. Khan, who was simply visiting this country to see his claimants. And I find it unacceptable and unreasonable for the Malaysian government not to disclose the reasons for that exclusion of Mr. Khan. I do not understand or comprehend why a lawyer who's never criticized this government ever in his life and made no comment prior to his visit, who does not have a criminal record, so he could not be accused of obstructing justice, and the fact that the claimant already lives in the United Kingdom, why the government took such drastic action to exclude him, especially when they have allowed me into the country to perform the same function that Mr. Khan would. I think there are serious consequences for lawyers in Mr. Khan's position, not just because they're traveling from abroad, but also serious consequences for lawyers in this country who want to represent their claimants in possibly similar suits in this country. This visit would not have been possible for the bravery and tenacity and the organization of the Hindra organization, and I remain indebted to them for organizing claimants and taking me to places where individuals were brave enough to talk to me and indicate their desire to be part of this suit against the British government. Thank you.